Okay, so we're on 7.4, word problem number 1. I'm going to assume you're looking at your book because I'm trying to be able to get through a video without writing everything down and eating up too much time. The sum of a number, so we know we're looking for a number, I'm going to call it x, and its reciprocal. So the missing number is x. It's my number. I made that symbol to represent number, but I'll write it out. And it's reciprocal. Now, if I think about the reciprocal, if I say x over 1 and then I flip it, the reciprocal is going to be 1 over x. So it says sum. That means I'm going to add two things. And when I add them, I'm supposed to get 25 over 12. Okay. So if I have x, if I add these two things, what it's telling me to do, this x and this 1 over x, the number and its reciprocal. All right. So now, if you notice what's going on is we have a fraction. We have fractions in our equation. So what I'm going to try to do, since I have x plus 1 over x is equal to 25 over 12, is clear the fractions. And again, this is what you were doing normally. Really, the part of the word problem that really, if you're having trouble with, would have just been the setup, because this is what we were doing up in the normal problems. Now, I can make everything a fraction, which is sometimes helpful when dealing with fractions. If you look, what I need to multiply everybody by is a 12x, because an x would get rid of that, and I need a 12 to get rid of that one there, okay? So let me multiply everything by 12. And an x, forgot the x. Okay. So, if I look and see what I've got left, 12x times x is 12x squared. If I cross the x's out here, cancel the x's out, I'd have 12 times 1 is 12. And over here, if I cross the 12's out, I have 25x. Still have an x left, though. Okay? So now, since I've got an equation and it's a square, the only thing I know to do right now is factor. And when I factor, I have to have all the terms on one side and 0 on the other. So I basically need to move this term over, and I can do that by subtracting 25x from each side. Now, I can't combine that 25x with anybody else on that other side because they're not like terms. So this is my 0 that I wanted. And then I've got 12x squared minus 25x plus 12 is equal to 0. So I'm going to have to split the middle term here. I'm going to say, okay, the number out front times the number on the end is 144. So what adds to give me 144? Multiplies to give me 144 and adds to give me negative 25. Okay, so 1 times 144, 2 times 72, 3 goes in there. I'm going to turn the recorder off and write some multiples. Okay, so I was in the midst of making my list, and I didn't finish it, and I noticed that I've got something that works, a 9 and a 16. So I'm going to replace with a 9 and a 16. Okay. So, but that doesn't add up to negative 25 yet. I need to have a negative 9 and a negative 16. That would give me negative 25, and a negative times a negative would still give me this positive 144 up there. So my numbers are negative 9 and negative 16. I sure hope I can fit this on this page. I will forget it if I go to the next page. So I've got 12x squared minus 9x minus 16x, just replacing, remember what I'm doing is I'm replacing this term right here with these two red numbers with an x after them, and then I've still got to write plus 12. Okay, let me kind of draw a little box around this so maybe it separates it. Alright, so now if I factor by grouping, I'm going to group the first two together. The GCF would be 3x, and I would have 4x minus 3 left. Now over here, since I've got a negative sign there, or a subtraction sign, I'm going to factor it out, and I notice that 4 goes into each one of those terms. So that would be, the leftovers would be 4x minus 3. And yay, that's good because this and this matches. That's my new GCF. So my new GCF is 4x minus 3. And then my leftovers are 3x minus 4. Okay? So if I'm going to solve that, remember those are set equal to 0. And so I need to take each factor and set it equal to 0. So 4x minus 3, 3x minus 4. Okay, so, oh shoot, forgot to turn the recorder on. So I set each factor equal to 0 and I solved. And I got x equal 3/4 and x is 4/3. You'll have to go through that math. I thought I had the recorder on and I was talking and didn't, but you should be able to solve that. So 3/4 I got here and 4/3. Which one is it? Well, they asked for the number and its reciprocal. If you look, these are reciprocals of each other. It wouldn't matter if you said the number is 3/4 or if you said the number is 4/3. Either one would be correct. Sorry, it was on. And so setup for number 3. I'm going to leave this for you to solve, but here's the setup for it. The sum of the reciprocals of 2 consecutive odd integers. Ooh. Let's call the first odd integer x or n. I'll just say first odd integer is n. I'll call it n. Now, how do I get to a consecutive odd integer? For instance, if I have 3, the next odd integer would be 5. I would have to add 2 to get to it. So I'm going to describe the second integer as n plus 2. That's our second odd integer. They tell me if I add these two, because it says sum, so I'm going to add these two, it's 8/15. And they want us to find them, okay? So we have n, oh no, it's not that sum of them, it's the sum of their reciprocals. So to make them reciprocals, I need to put 1 over each of them, don't I? Okay, so let's work a little bit on this. I'll probably leave some of it for you to solve. But if I have this, and I want to get rid of all my denominators, I can clear the fraction. Well, this is going to be a mess because you have to multiply by n plus 2, and by 15. So I'm going to write that out. 15n times n plus 2 times 1 over n plus 15n times n plus 2 over n plus 2 equal 15n times n plus 2 times 8/15. So that's what I'm going to have to simplify, okay? So the n's cancel out, so I have 15 times n plus 2. And then these n plus 2's cancel out, so I have 15n left. And on the other sides, just the 15 cancels out, so I have 8 times n, which is 8n times n plus 2. Alright, we have to simplify all this. I'll do as much as that I can before I run out of space here. 15 times n is 15n. 15 times 2 is 30, plus 15n. 8 over n is 8n squared. 8n times 2 is 16n. I need all my terms on one side, but let me simplify the left side first. 15n plus 15n is 30n, plus 30 is equal to 8n squared plus 16n. So if I subtract 30n from both sides and I subtract 30, because remember, if I'm going to solve this, I'm going to have to factor it. And if I factor it, I got to get all the terms on one side. I'd have 0 on the left-hand side. Come over here. 8n squared. If I combine my n terms, 16n minus 30n is minus 14n. And then the next thing is, last thing is a minus 30. If I try to factor this, remember there's going to be a GCF of 2. So it would be 2 times 4n squared minus 7n minus 15. And you're going to have to finish that problem. And again, if you can't finish the problem at this point, it's not the word problem you're having trouble with, it's factoring that you're having trouble with. Factoring never goes away. It's hidden in almost every problem that you're going to get from here on out, and that's why we're doing our factoring warm-up. So you're going to need to do that and finish it out. And again, if you can't do that, that's you may want to even get some tutoring if you can't factor that at this point.